well, we have to look at it this way. Firstly, the majority of the Western consciousness is so trauma ridden that sometimes it takes like an explosion to get out of that trauma, or to open up into a new space. So people may associate, their initial awakenings with psychedelics, but the reality is, with or without them, if the awakening is meant for you, it's going to happen. And what's important is that we live in a very distorted planet. So sometimes in a distorted planet, you're going to be engaging in distorted things as kind of like a stepping stone to kind of get out of that energy. So I see the validity in that on some level. At the same time, I had countless experiences, and every one of them seemed better than the last one. Every one of them seemed like a mind-blowing awakening. Every one of them seemed like I healed so many things. And yet, really, when I look at that whole phase, and I look from the beginning to the end, and I look at where I really came to and what changes really occurred, there was a lot that seemed to occur, but then there was a lot that the mind just thought was occurring that really wasn't. And this is I was writing about this today. That's going to be in the next psychedelic post, which is the various factions and beings that have governed this planet for a long time, that have used the psychedelics as a manipulation tool within the New Age kind of psyop, if you want to call it this. One of the core ways in which the manipulation or the delusion occurs is through a kind of a mind program that's installed, which is like a false enlightenment perspective, where there's an attachment to the spiritual identity, and so all of these blown open psychedelic experiences give the potential illusion that spiritual progress is happening. So it's only when we actually are void of these tools that we actually can see where we've landed. That's why silent meditation. That's why periods of less is more, coming back to the mundane, coming back to the natural, like easeful focus on our day-to-day life experience and responsibilities. Among some of the freedom teaching methods or various energetic tools, where we're really coming back home to see what is our real connection to ourself and to source. And it still may be that the psychedelics may have given you some progress, and I have gone through various phases where, yes, I have exchanged energy with things that, looking back, I would not do again, but it still has gotten me to a certain stage, or had led me to a certain path that is what it is. And at the same time, we can look at, well, how can we just continually refine this process in a way where we don't have to exchange energy with things that are not so conducive in the long term, right? Become more patient, maybe, about our process, and recognize that if we are truly eternal, then we better act like that. And if we're coming into the knowing of that eternal existence, that eternal self, we will be more patient, and we will be willing to be far more discerning, not rush into things, not get excited by the glamour in any particular process, method, meditation, tool, system, technique, teacher, teaching, etc. So it's for each person to decide. Nothing is black or white. I do understand this. At the same time, again, as I've spoken many times before, firstly, all of the core main teachers or beings that I highly respect, or I have viewed to be deeply enlightened or awakened, or etc., and continue to, none of them would recommend doing any sort of this work, any sort of psychedelics. It's just not. It's like, think about it. When was Buddha or Jesus or Bodhidharma or Ramakrishna or any of the great Buddhist Enlightenment beings, or like there's so many we can name, Lao Tzu, Rumi, like when are they ever talking about psychedelics? None of them are. So if these are the greats, these are the ones that we are all many listening to. I mean, obviously in the freedom teachings, they are very adamant about none of this, because of exactly what I just mentioned, which is the fact that the factions that have ruled this planet for like thousands and thousands, not millions of years, are utilizing the doorways that psychedelics open to create more and more delusion, create more and more manipulation, and to move into that. So this isn't about creating a space of like victimhood. It's actually the opposite of that. It's coming into a place of clarity within ourselves about the fact that we have already what we need, and the less that we require from the external, the less we're giving ourselves the opportunity to get caught in things that we don't even know what we're getting caught in. And that's really what happens. So, ayahuasca ceremony, and those who had any sort of perception can see all the beings feeding off of the other beings in the middle of the ceremony. I was having a conversation with a friend last night about that, and I've experienced this as well. And this is what happens, right? So, we can come up with all kinds of different ideas as we like as well. I just know that I've humbled myself to my own experiences, for one, to learn from that, but second, to just look at those that I view to be at a certain stage in the path with a certain adepthood, and what they're commonly saying, and they're pretty much all commonly saying the same thing.